Subscribe to the channel and hit like right now, because this story isn't about a single quote, a single race, or a single person. It's about power, control, and a quiet shift happening inside Formula One, one that most fans haven't noticed yet. In the last few weeks, Formula One has been sending strange signals. Not through official press releases, not through FIA statements, but through tone changes, reactions, and carefully chosen silences. At first glance, everything looks normal. The season is over. Teams are preparing for 2026. Drivers are doing media appearances. Executives are smiling in interviews. But underneath that surface, something is clearly unstable. And it all started when a single comment triggered consequences that went far beyond the paddock. Formula One today is not the same sport it was even 5 years ago. It's no longer just racing. It's a global entertainment product, deeply tied to sponsors, manufacturers, political interests, and public perception. Every word spoken by someone in a position of power now has weight. And when that weight tips in the wrong direction, the reaction is immediate. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, because Formula One is evolving fast and understanding why decisions happen matters more than knowing who won last Sunday. This is why recent controversies have been handled very differently than they would have been in the past. No shouting matches. No open wars. Just quiet distancing. The sport is learning, sometimes the hard way, that image damage spreads faster than performance gains. And that brings us to a figure whose words have always carried enormous influence. Over the last season, Formula One has been unusually sensitive to narratives involving young drivers, fan behavior, and online harassment. The FIA has openly discussed concerns about how drivers are treated on social media. Teams have started issuing statements not about results, but about responsibility. This isn't accidental. Incidents involving young drivers receiving abuse, threats, and coordinated attacks have raised alarms inside the sport. Not because of morality alone, but because of risk. Risk to sponsors. Risk to families. Risk to the future pipeline of talent. Formula One wants to be seen as modern, inclusive, and controlled. Chaos does not fit that vision. If you want real context instead of recycled headlines, this is the kind of story you'll only get by subscribing here. This channel doesn't just report what happened, it explains why it happened and what comes next. Because the Ford partnership is only the surface layer of a much deeper conflict. There's a generational shift happening in Formula One leadership. New executives, new investors, new priorities. The Liberty Media era demands alignment. Alignment in messaging. Alignment in tone. Alignment in public behavior. This is why we've seen teams defend drivers more quickly. Why controversies are shut down faster. Why internal criticism is increasingly handled behind closed doors. Formula One doesn't want loose cannons anymore. And that creates tension, especially with figures who built their reputations in a different era, where blunt honesty was celebrated, not regulated. Look at how recent news cycles have been framed. Oscar Piastri publicly supported McLaren's internal rules during the title fight, reinforcing discipline and team control instead of rivalry. That wasn't accidental messaging, it was alignment. Pirelli's announcement about the 2026 tires focused heavily on safety, predictability, and reduced degradation. Less chaos. More control. Ferrari's leadership gave Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc freedom to criticize, but only within a controlled, internal structure. Public explosions were downplayed immediately. Even Valtteri Bottas' return project with Cadillac was framed around preparation, professionalism, and long-term planning, not emotion. Different stories. Same pattern. If this analysis is already changing how you see the Ford-Red Bull partnership, subscribe now. The biggest shifts in Formula One don't happen on Sundays. They happen months before, in boardrooms and factories, and that's where this channel lives. And now, here's where the story gets uncomfortable. Now we get closer to the real issue. In the modern Formula One ecosystem, influence is dangerous. When someone speaks, fans react instantly, and not always rationally. A single comment can redirect anger, blame, and obsession toward a driver who has no protection from the crowd. When that happens, the sport doesn't just see controversy. It sees potential lawsuits, sponsor discomfort, and reputational damage. At that point, it stops being about opinions. It becomes about liability. And liability is something corporate Formula One has zero tolerance for. For weeks, speculation has grown. Is this about a driver nearing the end of a legendary career? Is Formula One preparing fans for a farewell? Is this about someone stepping away quietly? The signs feel familiar. Reduced visibility. Softer language. Careful wording in interviews. Fans naturally assume it's about a name they already associate with legacy and closure. That assumption makes sense. But it's also incomplete. Like and subscribe, because Formula One's biggest changes don't arrive with press releases. They arrive disguised as launches, partnerships, and celebrations, and Detroit was one of the loudest signals we've seen in years. The truth is harsher than a simple goodbye. Formula One is increasingly unwilling to protect reputations when those reputations threaten the brand itself. History matters, but control matters more. Recent comments made by senior figures have directly contributed to young drivers becoming targets of online harassment, including death threats. That crossed a line. Not morally, strategically. At that point, it stopped being about racing opinions and became a crisis management issue. And Formula One does not wait for crises to explode. Before we say the name, take a second to subscribe and like this video. Not because of the algorithm, but because this channel exists to explain why Formula One makes the decisions it pretends are natural. Most coverage stops at headlines. Most fans are told what happened, never why it had to happen. Here, the focus is power, incentives, pressure, and image, the real forces shaping modern Formula One. If you want to understand the sport beyond lap times and team radios, this is where you stay. Because what's coming next isn't speculation. It's the unavoidable conclusion of everything we've just laid out. This story was never about a driver stepping away. It was about Helmut Marko. A legend. A key architect of Red Bull's success. And now, a symbol of a Formula One era that no longer fits the direction of the sport. His comments about Kimi Antonelli didn't just spark debate. They triggered real-world consequences, and that forced the sport to react. The future of Formula One doesn't allow unchecked power anymore. Not even for legends. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, because Formula One is evolving fast, and understanding why decisions happen matters more than knowing who won last Sunday.